Good evening.
Evening.
Calling to order the committee chairs meeting. It is 6 p.m. on the 4th of February. This meeting is being recorded by committee chairs. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time.
I could do it by hand.
It's all good. It's all good. The purpose of this meeting is to prepare agendas for subcommittees for council consideration. No discussion or comments will be entertained unless requested upon by the committee chairs. All right, so we will take a roll call of members.
President Wondolowski. Here. Vice President Garrett.
Here.
Counselor Healy.
Here.
Counselor Golub.
Here.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Fantastic. And we're all here live, not that we vote on anything, but so easier. Welcome to our new committee chair, Garrett Healy. And welcome to all of our returning chairs. So thank you all for your willingness to serve and do the extra work of chairing the committee. It is much appreciated. All right, so the issues in front of us this evening, first one is the issue regarding the environmental health and noise impact caused by idling trains. We talked about it at the December meeting. And just wanted to, do we feel like that's resolved? Do we need that to move that to a committee?
My understanding that's been resolved. I know Councilor Bullock had been talking to the railroad, and she had said that she thought it was resolved last month, and then there was some concern it could come back, but I haven't heard anything otherwise.
Haven't heard anything.
We haven't had any emails either, so
Yeah.
I think that complaint came in via email anyway.
It did,
so
yes.
You would think we'd get an email if there was an issue.
And that gentleman had my phone number and he called me, and I talked to him several times about it, so I imagine if it was back, he would have done the same, so.
And I know we had reached out to Department of Transportation, et cetera, so. Now what,
If you're moving,
we're moving on. Discussion of the appointment of a new parliamentarian. So at the last meeting, I mentioned two potentials. I've reached out to at least one. I have another person in mind, so this is still in the works. I won't move it until we have somebody who is at least a few candidates who are interested for us to discuss.
do you want it left on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
Please leave on the agenda.
thank you.
All right, Board of Assessors request for appearance before the Ways and Means Committee to discuss potential for increase of tax exemption amounts allowable per current state regulations submitted by the assessors. This on January 8th.
So this was given to us by a member of the Board of Assessors here, and the Assistant Assessor is also here. They wanted to go before the Ways and Means Committee to discuss several different options. Which can happen anytime. If the council is going to consider any of these, a recommendation has to come from the mayor to the council with an order to accept whatever the mayor proposes.
Okay,
So it has to go through the executive office first? To
To
even.
vote on it,
To vote on
to
it.
vote on it.
If we want to consider it, and that we can do that before.
You can have a discussion on it.
Okay.
Sure.
would you like to move it on to Ways and Means?
Sure. I
Let's move it.
entertain anything they want to talk about.
It's really informative.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing on the agenda is executive session to release confidential legal opinions submitted by the city attorney regarding proposed zoning amendment. That was requested by me. I'd like to move it to the full council agenda for February. Next is mayor's appointments, elderly and disabled taxation fund committee. And here's all the names. You can read them yourselves. I suggest that goes to A&O. Good. Great. Okay, fantastic. Then we have the proposed zoning amendments, 200-14 Central Commercial District, mixed residential business uses, et cetera, submitted by Counselor Mastrocitoro on the 29th of January. We suggest that goes to EDC.
Yeah, and I've invited Chief Strain and Hannah from the Greenfield Business Association to attend that meeting, just to kind of give input on height restriction and how the business community feels about changing the commercial district.
Tammy is also working with Eric. I don't know if you saw the emails to
Yeah.
schedule and set up the public hearing. And there may be another zoning amendment coming through. We don't know when. That could also possibly go on that public hearing.
Yeah,
How's Mr. Charles?
Okay, so we have to just be careful of a quorum.
Oh, I'm fine with whatever
Yeah,
you all do. I
yeah.
just want to let you know that he was there.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And they won't be speaking, so.
No.
And if I'm correct on the timing, then that hearing would have to happen before April 4th. And then the final vote needs to happen by July 4th.
Yeah.
Ready? So next is discussion of proposed housing projects in Greenfield. I will be putting on the Community Relations Committee agenda just a discussion about the various projects that are happening in Greenfield. And we'll ask Susan as well as Amy Cahalan to present. And we'll be moving that meeting, if it works for everybody, from the holiday to the following Monday, which is the 24th of January.
Just with Amy's name coming up, would it make sense?
February.
February, sorry.
So, I know that it's January. I'm still in January.
Not to put too much on Amy's plate, but would it also make sense potentially to invite her to EDC as well with the discussion of the zoning amendments?
That's already.
there was an invitation to Amy and I believe one other person.
Chief Strand.
Chief Strain
Who is-
and
yeah.
Hannah from the GBA, so.
Okay.
We're gonna keep Amy busy.
Yeah.
She's been with the city for a year now, so now it's.
She's ready for it.
I'm questioning if Amy was invited.
So
I know the two people that you requested were
I
invited.
saw on this agenda, and I assume this is something that was put forth before I was made chair, was invite Amy Callahan to receive information regarding the efforts to grow business activity in the downtown Greenfield region. So she was invited for that reason.
Okay,
But if she's gonna be there, we'll have her speak about. both,
okay,
Right?
thank you.
Anything else? All right, then, FY 26 budget meeting scheduled for Ways and Means and Council.
So now is the time that we typically start planning. Then budget meetings will be held. Yeah. Who will be invited to what meeting? We usually do that with the Ways and Means Chair. Is it okay to send out to you the schedule that was held last year? Find out if you want to hold a similar schedule. How do you want to start that?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we.
Yes, I think last year's schedule was much better than previous years. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I
do.
don't believe we started any of that until March.
Right, so we don't usually
Right.
start until we get the budget.
Right.
But if we look at last year's and then we plan,
This is first capital.
right, we have to include capital, first capital and then
Operating is usually.
operating after that.
Right.
But if we get them sort of scheduled at the same time and we have a plan,
Yeah, I mean, capital would be fine now to put those things out. I know that with the changes we made to the timeline last year, it gave the executive a little bit more time. I believe April 21st, was that?
I don't remember.
I believe it was a finite
But it
date, like
was-
if it was
it
like
was-
by then.
mhm,
That way, because of the whole, like,
yeah,
you
there,
know, the executive needs to get to us X amount of days before, and we need to do it X amount of days before the end of the fiscal year.
yeah,
It was kind of that middle ground and the no matter what the calendar changed, kind of like when Thanksgiving sometimes falls on the 28th or sometimes on the 21st, it was always going to be before that finite deadline
Mhm,
for the operating budget.
mhm.
Obviously more important, than capital. But yeah, I mean, we can certainly start the talks of when these will happen.
Mhm.
I don't foresee there being a whole lot of, especially for capital, a whole lot of, need
Mhm.
for, as we did last year, a whole lot of need for department heads to be there. They've made their presentations at Capital Committee, and I encourage anyone who would have any questions to watch those videos that
Mhm.
have already been recorded. They've already done their presentations. I don't think they need to spend their time doing it again.
Do you know if those recordings are on
They are all on
YouTube,
YouTube.
GCT?
Yep.
Okay.
And if if questions come up without watching them or whatever, like there is the packet available. Hopefully we'll get that final version. Wink, wink, Jenny. The final version that we got kind of interspersed with capital. The final version, we can get a couple of copies to the folks on Ways and Means to look over. And if they have any questions, they can certainly ask myself or reach out to Gene Wall or Ann Childs, who those two were also on Capital Committee.
Mhm.
If they have questions or watch the videos that were there. And if any further questions happen, those would be welcomed at that time. But I'm not, I'm in the interest of inviting these folks
Mhm.
to be in attendance at those Ways and Means capital talks, but I'm not interested in them having to spend the time presenting their case again.
Yeah.
That they've already presented.
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
So yeah, we can definitely schedule those for, March.
Mhm. Cool.
Great. It was my first time on Ways and Means, but it felt like it was a good schedule.
It went pretty smoothly last year.
Last year was much more efficient. I think.
I thought it was informative too. I mean, I'd never been on Ways and Means either, and I felt like I learned more about how to speak up and works, maybe shorter as they may have been than pretty much anywhere else, so.
Excellent. Great. So next big hairy item is ordinance review, which it will be an A and O activity and will take more time than Ways and Means.
Whoosh, whoosh.
And an insomnia creator.
I will sleep. Who knows when, but I will sleep. So I have a couple of thoughts about it. The first is just, do any of you have thoughts about it? I'd love to hear your suggestions if you've had any thoughts. And I plan to do the same thing at A&O, just any suggestions. I know we had a long talk about it, which is really helpful. I'm all ears as I designed the process for doing this. Does anyone have ideas about ways to do this well? And if not, no pressure. Just I want you to know that I'm open to them.
I mean, the first thing that kind of comes to mind with this is it's a really broad mandate here. A review of ordinances is literally like review the law, is effectively what it is for our city. So chunking it out, and obviously I know one major piece is going to be talking to various departments of the city about what they need. And so, you shouldn't do everything. And so dividing up amongst the committee members, maybe talking to various departments and kind of having each member adopt something would make sense to me. So that's kind of my first thought. Divide and conquer, basically.
I didn't know that this was a thing that happened every 5 years. It happened before I was here and now it's happening now. So good luck. I feel like it's kind of one of those things you don't necessarily know that you're going to have to tackle as a chair until all of a sudden it's confronted with you, capital committee or TIF committee or things like that, that they don't tell you when you go for appointment and then you find out, oh crap, I have to do this too. So it sounds like it's gonna be a much busier spring, summer for you. And I wish you well.
Kind of you.
So my suggestion, like John had said, would divide and conquer. And when you want to reach out to the department heads and you want to ask them to review and you want to have them submit their recommendations, do that through the office. So everything that's communicated, there's a record of in email, searchable, that sort of thing, so that all of their recommendations are coming to the council office to be dispersed. There's no one better to tell you what the ordinance needs than the specific department. So, listening to the department heads, if they tell you, no, ordinance is fine. Check it off the list. The ordinance review is for the substance of the ordinance, not necessarily how the ordinance is phrased, because we could change the language, throughout the hundreds of pages. But it's the substance that we're trying to get down to. And again, having that come through the office and having that central point may make your life a little easier.
Correct.
Just may,
I like the word.
not saying, and then when the ordinances, when you go through the process and the ordinances are ready to go, there will have to be public hearings held to gather public input.
So I have did you have something? No. So I have a few thoughts to share. The first is haven't looked at them yet there, but I want to thank the clerk's office for putting the ordinances into Google Docs. I know that you said that had been done and that will make our jobs much, much easier having them all in that folder. So thank you for that. Second, I've given you my word that Catherine has an inner editor. Catherine likes to edit, but I will not be editing for
It will make your life so much more pleasant.
occasionally. The committee will be editing for substance, not for wordsmithing. Another thing that I have decided, we are in agreement, President Wondolowski and myself, we will not be doing the zoning ordinances.
Correct.
That is the purview of EDC, so we will not be covering the zoning ordinances. And I'm wondering, a couple of questions. I'm wondering about what administrative support is available to us through the office. I imagine that there's things that I cannot foresee. For instance, one thing that I think would be really helpful at the beginning, as soon as possible, is if we could put create a spreadsheet that has the ordinances numbers so that we can say who's taking what.
Sure.
Who's taking what, and by when do you anticipate having new language by? A spreadsheet with the ordinance number, the name of the counselor who's taking responsibility, and the date that they plan to have that by. That would be really, really helpful. And I imagine that there will be other things like that would be.
You might
really
want the
helpful.
department
Yes,
on your.
Yeah.
So you know.
yeah,
which is under the purview of, and maybe the date the ordinance was passed, if we have it, because my guess is maybe focusing on the older ordinances for a better look than more new ones, because maybe the older ones are the ones that may not be relevant.
That could be, that could depend.
I know it depends.
We've had some new ordinances that
I don't
aren't
know.
necessarily favorable over
Yeah.
the last 10 years.
a lot has changed, a lot has changed the last
Yeah.
years. I mean, I welcome other suggestions like that about what additional columns might be good. it'd be so helpful as I think this out loud to have a link to the Google Doc right there in the spreadsheet. So that type of support, and if we could have, I'm curious, I see you both writing and
Mhm.
nodding slightly, and I'm feeling grateful for that.
Mhm.
Love spreadsheets.
Okay, all right, good. Given your,
I'd written, so.
given your current bandwidth, when do you think that you might be able to do that by? I don't know how long that would take, and I'd love to be able to share that with the members of, I keep pointing to you because you're going to be part of this process. You're on the
Very
committee.
much, yeah.
So there's two thoughts in my head, and
Yeah,
Quinn is all about the spreadsheets,
all
so,
right.
and we might even be able to, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna regret it later, create a Google Doc that's on the shared drive. Google Sheet.
Yes, that's what I'm,
Which Quinn and I both love. Please taste the sarcasm. Google Docs, love them. Spreadsheets too. There's one thing though, now that I'm thinking about, so uploading the ordinances to the council drive was super easy because I just clicked download, but it put all of the ordinances in one document. They're not separated.
Like,
So we're gonna have a little bit of work to do there.
yes.
And then I don't think building the document spreadsheet will be difficult because they're really great at that. I think separating all the ordinances and whatever we do, we can run by you. We can show you before, it goes out to the
Yeah.
group and that sort of thing. I think the biggest hurdle will be separating the ordinances.
It's in the PDF?
Yeah, I was gonna say the easiest
No, it
way
is-
to do that is to print it to the PDF and then extract pages from that.
So I can extract each ordinance separately from the website.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking, yeah, we'll get it done.
Thank you.
And then, Tammy is gonna have a bunch of ideas also, so,
Yeah,
I love carpal tunnel last time.
we all have carpal tunnel now.
There you go.
There you go.
so Google Sheets
Yeah, surgery.
is, as I see both of your faces.
Yeah.
And to have it, that shared ability to communicate will make a huge difference. for us.
Mhm.
So thank you for doing
My
that.
Excel, on my computer.
Such any Excel.
No, on my computer. Logged in as me. And then we can build it and make it a Google Sheet.
Building Google Sheets.
Okay. We'll talk.
Is there anything that
Yeah.
needs to come before the full council anytime soon as part of this process?
Not yet, but
Okay.
there isn't that I am aware of, but a couple of other things I want you to be aware of. Just one question to
Mhm.
finish this. When should I, if I don't hear back from you, when should I reach out to you by? Like, what's your timeline?
Wednesday?
Yeah.
When's your
Should be
meeting?
able to have a rough copy.
Thank you. Okay, that is fantastic. To have that by Wednesday's meeting would be incredible. And I'll just reach out to you if I feel like other administrative support is needed. And the other thing that I'll say is what I'm anticipating, and this is from our conversation, is not like we're gonna look at the ordinances for a year and then put them to council all at once, that as they are ready, we will be bringing them to council. And so this will mean more
Yeah.
work for
10-hour pass ordinances meeting?
Maybe we'll go-
There's so much
Oh.
work in committee.
Well, and so I will say I welcome.
Hope
I
that 90% of them are fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I hear
Again,
that.
trust in what your department heads are telling you.
Oh, yes.
If they're telling you
Yes.
this ordinance is fine, they're the ones that need to
Leave it.
leave it, they need to leave it, live it,
Yeah.
So just
Thanks, Brooke.
taking that,
Brooke, you're right.
right, and yeah,
We
So,
like that. This.
But I appreciate that, like,
Try to fix things up.
as so instead of waiting to the end, like.
Right. yeah,
Do them throughout the year.
and so I'm sorry, can I, like ordinance reviews don't always happen in the year they're supposed to. Because they were supposed to happen in 2020. Well, guess what, folks? The world went boom, right? And it didn't happen until 2021. We're starting, we're gonna get there. It'll be fine, right? This is a sprint.
Okay,
This is not a marathon.
well, this is the,
Okay.
yeah.
This is a
I've
relay.
been thinking, I really don't want to run a marathon, but I'm willing to
Yeah.
run a quick race.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it. And we will continue to be in communication about the pacing of bringing them to the full council.
Okay. Great.
That is, maybe we'll find some really weird laws, you know, like those ones that they compile books of, like you can't have a giraffe on a leash in Boston kind of things. Have a community relations meeting about it, like, look, we didn't. get
I know.
this.
Maybe we finally make our ice cream.
I can't wait till have it. Wow.
Right, exactly. Like I'm trying to find the weird
Our blue
ones.
ones.
Yeah, exactly. Goody Charles says.
I don't know if this is new business, but a just little bit of a change in council meetings, instead of kind of the random departments might show up and speak each month. I'm working on a schedule of topic or committee departments by month that will present 5 minutes to the council so that we're aware of all the things that are happening.
I mean, at full council.
Yeah, for full council. So fire department is presenting in February because we got the ladder truck and heights and things like that. We're asking Amy Cahalan to come in March to talk about economic development in the city. So, and it'll be perfect timing because it'll be right after you all have spoken in committee. I was thinking April for energy, both because it's Earth Day and that sort of thing. And we'll be in the middle of Ways and Means and budget season, so hearing from her, but that's as far as I've gotten, so we can come back to this if you all have topics to fill up the calendar. And obviously, if there's a immediate topic that's come up in the city, we'll have them as part of. But just trying to have something more regular.
Do you want to? So that's not on the agenda, so it shouldn't be discussed without
Yeah.
it being put on an agenda. Do you want to send what you have so far so the office can send invites?
Yes.
Or send something so that it can go on the March agenda for a more robust discussion,
Perfect.
you know, for people to say, well, let's have, you know, this month is this, let's have these people come or.
Thank you. Awesome. And now we're at the annual review for updates and status of outstanding council business.
I can lead those. I just realized I have one last question about the ordinance review though before I do. When you say to send communication through the office, does that mean that you want the counselor who's taking responsibility for that ordinance to also always include the three of you in those emails? Is that what that would look like?
So what I was thinking was, and I would look back through the emails that what was done in 2021. I think a general email went out to all of the various departments saying ordinance review is occurring. Please look at the ordinances that you have in the code that you administer or are responsible for, you know, like building inspections is, and I know you're not doing the zoning, but building looks at zoning also. So look at your ordinances for improvements. And if you have recommendations, send the recommendations to us. We will get it out to the ordinance committee. And if you have no proposed changes, let us know that also.
Would you all be able to send that email? Like that's.
Would you like us to send that email?
That would be great. I mean, because then that would also help clarify what people are taking responsibility for. So I think there may be two questions. One is, can you take a quick look in the next week and see, are there changes that you'd want to make? Or something like, I'm just thinking this through out loud. What do you think about this? So then we at least know that they go on the list. If they say, we're all set, then they don't have to go on our list.
Mhm.
And no one needs to take responsibility for that.
Mhm.
But that like kind of blanket email to all the department heads would be incredibly helpful.
Okay,
I think once you develop your list too, a good thing to do is, once you know which counselor is taking charge of that, they would then send an email out to department heads saying, this counselor is gonna be taking care of that. So if you have any direct questions or requests, reach out to this counselor, and always copy the chair on the
Right.
email as well. That way they know who's kind of leading the front.
Yeah, that's true. And if they're saying no, I don't want any counselor, like, I don't want there to be a counselor who takes responsibility
no.
for a bunch of things that are just no's.
Mhm.
So, sorry.
I think it's two-step, like develop the list.
Yeah.
And then assign counselors, and then send another email out saying, these are the counselors that are doing these departments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that. Mhm. Does that make, does
It
that?
does. We can, like I said, I can look and see what we sent out
Yeah.
4 years ago and sort of base it on that, but frame it from now.
Yeah, and to ask people to respond in a certain timeline, like, just let us know
Yeah.
if there are no changes. Or if there are changes, you don't need to tell us what those changes are. Just please let us know if you want us on the list,
Okay,
if you want yourself on.
and I don't, off the top of my head, a week is too soon.
Sure.
So it might need to be, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we give them
Something,
3 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever you feel is reasonable, sounds reasonable to me too. That's fine. Yeah, okay, so, hold on, I need to wait my computer. up. Okay, so these, I can say, I spoke with Counselor Bullock about this one. She is working on language.
Which one is? the-
So the next item, so it says annual review for updates and status of outstanding council business. And I can take the next four because the next three ones came to my committee. This one, I know this was the opioid, how the deciding together how the opioid settlement funds are allocated. And I know that Councilor Bullock, and I together with the mayor talked to you about this, was creating language with the group that has convened to discuss how these funds are distributed. And they have language that is currently being looked at by some official. The technical assistance. So the technical assistance person has the language and hasn't gotten back yet. So when
Will that need to come back to the council or?
probably,
Okay.
yeah, it'll probably be making that an official body.
Okay.
That's in process. And the next three, which came to my committee at the so last year was 2024. These things were all lingering from A&O in 2023. And they were kind of hanging out in the discussion area of the agenda. And I said at the beginning of the year, counselors, if you want to take these on, please do so. Please take responsibility for them. But then if you are not interested, no one's interested in moving this forward, and we haven't heard from the community about moving it forward, then we'll just drop them. We took them off of the discussion, and I will say every single one of these, that people said, these counselors who put their names to them said they didn't want to continue talking about them. So they may come back up when we're doing the ordinance review, but they never came for a motion. They were always in the discussion section of the A&O agenda.
So
So I would say for now, we can drop them.
you're talking about the proposed amendment, Article 6, Administrative Organization, Public Safety,
Correct.
the dog bite,
Yes,
and the ride for hire. They can just be taken off.
they can be taken off.
Thank you.
All right, so the last thing is executive session for possible release, minutes of 2017, 2018, 2019, 2022, which were reviewed on the 24th of January, so a year ago.
Mhm.
And then the second staunch is a bunch that are first review, so so we haven't looked at those
Right.
before. I would definitely recommend that the ones that are under first review, we should put on the agenda.
Remind me what, I know we reviewed a lot of things that were from like 10 years ago,
Mhm.
this year that had been not reviewed before. Remind me if you can, what the timeline is. Once we've reviewed them, when we have to re-review them, if that's a word?
Sure. They suggest they are re-reviewed yearly.
Yearly, okay.
So these that are listed for second review,
Sure.
those would be a yearly review. And the new dates would be their first review. I don't believe that there would be any changes to the recommendations from last year's review.
Mhm.
And the 5 or 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, the new ones that were found from 2008, 2012, 2015,
Mhm.
and then the 2 from this year. Those would be more important to review,
Sure.
but that they could all fall under the yearly review. So next February,
Right.
these, depending on what happens with the release or not, would all be reviewed again next February.
What I'm asking that is, if we want to do it every February, I just think it would be important for us to set a precedent of schedule
Mhm.
on when we're going to review these things and make that a point to do. And definitely don't do it in March, April, or May, or June.
Exactly.
Okay, like, let's not do that during budget.
Right, so that's why we did
If we do it
choose
February.
February,
Cool.
because the new council comes in January.
Yep.
And you at least have a month under your belt to pull your hair out.
Mhm.
And then the review occurs again.
And we'll just, we keep this consistent.
And we're gonna have legal opinions on all these.
We can,
Hopefully we get a legal opinion on.
so we got a legal opinion last year. We can request the attorney review last year's legal opinion and see if there are any changes.
Sure.
And then provide suggestions for the new ones that are just going under first review.
Would
That's
that,
probably smart.
would that require them to be there in person again, or would it just be like a letter?
I think it depends on what you all want.
I mean, I think if we're consistent on this, we could probably get away with a letter, right? Like, I mean, I think the point of
It would
them
be
being
much
there in
cheaper for the
person
city.
was because it had been so long since they
Yeah.
were looked at, that we needed some explanation, but
Yep.
not to say, obviously, there's gonna be a revolving council all the time.
But we only have one new members.
Right. But in this case, like, if we don't need them to actually show up and, sit through the first however long of the meeting before we actually go into a
That's what I
second
was
session.
Right.
They sat in the audience.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, we always can suspend the rules to make that the first order of business, post pledge of allegiance. But yeah, if we don't need them to speak at length and spend the money at whatever hundreds of dollars an hour and just get a letter, I think that'd be, especially if we're keeping up with it,
So we're-
100%.
Plan class.
Like our cards.
All of them
Like our
is what
cards.
I'm hearing from everybody.
Vehicles.
Fantastic.
Memo only, no attendance.
Yeah.
I mean, if we need them. to
Unless
be-
they come up with something in the,
I think let's get the memo out to counselors.
Yeah.
And then if we have specific questions we need answered, then maybe we request them to attend the meeting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Mhm.
No, it's perfect because we also have the other minutes to release or the legal opinion, so.
yeah,
'Cause some of them are literally pretty pedestrian, like, no, we're not gonna talk about this because it's still,
Right.
yada, yada.
Mhm.
And other things will be, this is already, case has been solved, whatever. no big deal if we now release it.
Okay. That is taken care of. So we've got Economic Development Committee. It says, we've
Yes.
got discussion items.
Yeah, so on that agenda, I already kind of briefly touched on this. So we have information from new business owners that have been established in Greenfield to discuss how they can utilize downtown in a better way. That was really kind of trying to get the Greenfield Business Association involved and talk to local businesses and get some of their insight on how they want to see downtown Greenfield flourish and best use the space to draw more businesses. And then Amy Callahan again was coming in to kind of discuss any new activities in downtown or any potential new businesses that might be coming to town, any of those things. And that was something that kind of came up in the December meeting when we first were talking about, I had recommended that we take those two steps and Councilor Bullock had put them out because that request. I just want to be sure that we're involving all of our community in our meetings, not just constituents, but businesses who are a big part of our community as well in these discussions that could affect their livelihood, right? So, yeah, so we'll talk about that in the February 11th meeting and see where everything goes.
Great. Makes sense. You know?
Yep, appointments and ordinance review.
Great. Community relations, we talked about, so we'll have a discussion about housing, ways and means.
Financial orders coming across the desk, right?
Yep.
Fire truck.
Fire truck.
MOU, I don't know if that made it. I don't think it made it. I think we just got it today.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's not.
Didn't make
until
the
March.
5 day.
Right. Yeah, I mean. We'll do our business for month February.
Board of Assessors request is on this. Is it, we discussed them, they are gonna come. Is that what was we determined? Okay.
That's what made it in.
Yeah.
This time, okay, yes. Well, the confusion here was when I got and I know they've now left, but I had gotten the initial request and then I seen you in the clerk's office and asked you about, well, I asked you about it, but then I also I had to go pay my bill. So I met the new assistant assessor that
Yeah.
day. And he was like, oh, did you get my email? I said, yeah. But I was instructed that the first step had to go through the executive office first, but then
So it was,
they could then, so I don't know what happened from that point till now.
right,
And yeah, we're totally welcoming to them coming to Ways and Means to talk about the exemptions. I just didn't know if we had crested whatever, hump that was needed on that respect.
so the discussion can happen.
Mhm.
No one's preventing the discussion, but for the council to actually take action,
Sure.
the mayor would need to propose whatever exemption, whatever amount, so on and so forth, to the council.
Gotcha.
So, and they did, hand this out tonight. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from Noah. Very thorough presentation.
Mhm.
And it's always good information for anyone who wants to hear it.
yes,
We're gonna add this document to the meeting minutes, just so.
yeah, I'm
as it-
writing here that it was received tonight.
Thank you.
Hmm,
You've got city clerk report.
yes. So Tammy and I were able to go through the charter amendments that the governor had signed. There's also a page in here, I think it's the last page, that explains the whole thing. There are 2 words missing from 2 sections.
Sir.
And the state has advised us that to get those corrected, we need to pass more charter amendments.
Wait another year.
It's entirely possible. So there
Is
is,
it their mistake? And then
Yes.
you- Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have to redo work because they screwed up.
Yep.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. So, so my proposal is that on this February council agenda, again, it's it's explained here.
Okay.
Is to put forward charter amendments, including the words that were left out.
Okay.
There's also one other section that they have a duplicate sentence that we're gonna ask them to remove.
Okay.
So if it's okay to put those on the council agenda,
Absolutely.
okay?
Pass the thing that we originally passed.
In 2022.
And that's
21, I think.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Even
maybe.
later.
And the charter amendments that were sent to the legislature last April were resent a week ago because they didn't get them. And so the amendments were to charter section 5.3 submission of budget and budget message. Charter section 5.6 action on the budget, charter section 5.10 capital improvement program, and charter section 2.10 council review of certain appointments. I believe you brought those forward, right? So those were also just resent to the legislature to get going this session. So the small amendments we're gonna request be expedited,
Thank you.
but they still have to go through the process and the public hearing and everything. And I'm also gonna request that they expedite the 4 that were sent to them last April.
Thanks.
But again,
Please expedite so we can have 2 birds off 4 years from now.
and other than those 3 things, these are all the charter amendments that we have made and have to be.
Oh, wow.
Those are
Yeah,
still
thank you
pending?
for doing
Or-
that.
No, those are the ones that came through the parchment, including the 2, 3 errors. And there will be a final review and then that will go out to the masses.
Okay.
Molasses, is that what you said? Oh, I-
Sorry. I see what you did there. So,
Okay.
and,
And do we need to look at the city council agenda items?
we all want them moved around at all. We'll add the charter amendments that we just discussed.
Right. We've got the executive session. I suggest that we have the public comment before executive session, just so folks don't have to wait in case we're in the other room for a long time.
So if you waive the rules, you
We're not
could,
inviting a lawyer this time, correct?
not unless there's something glaring that the attorney brings up. But if you,
Otherwise, I would say, please don't. But
if you waive the rules, order and disposition of items, then you could have public comment before.
Waiving the rules have to be on the agenda, or can it just be a motion made by somebody on the council?
It should be on the
It
agenda.
should be on the agenda, so.
So but if we're going to have it on the agenda to waive the rules, to have executive session earlier, when you waive the rules, you waive the rules,
it all goes out.
All the rules.
which is not recommended.
Okay.
Well, the order and disposition of items, that's what you're waiving, you know, so that's the one that,
So since the agenda is not already set, couldn't we just set the agenda to juxtapose the order? If we're already doing it now, without waiving the rules?
no, you need to vote to waive the rules.
The agenda has a specific rule we can't amend right now.
The rules of procedure have a specific order that the agenda goes in.
I just figured the agenda wasn't made yet. Maybe we can get by without,
You know, we're government.
it's all going to pot.
We need you to do.
I'm saying,
Okay.
we, there were rules on Wednesday.
No rules Wednesday.
No rules Wednesday. like no holds barred back in the day.
Okay.
WWF.
I think we've covered everything. Are there any other things that need to be discussed this evening?
I had mentioned last month the school vacation element of February. and
Oh, yes.
That never made it to this chair's agenda. I think with considering that we have, issues finding spaces with our hybrid requirements, the number of places, I'm comfortable not discussing that right now until we figure that out. But it's, so just, that's the only thing I can think of. Once we figure that out, then maybe bring that back up, but
So far, can all of us make it to the February meeting?
Reluctantly, yes.
enthusiastically is what I heard you say.
I mean, my kid wants to
I'm
go
not gonna
somewhere
be- I'm not gonna be
warm.
at Foxwoods this year, so there's that.
Fair.
I did not enjoy holding a meeting from my
I
hotel
will, I'll
room.
be remote though, because I'll be in Florida.
That's
Best.
smart.
I'm flying on the 19th, but I should be there in time for the meeting. So.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second?
We need a roll call?
No,
No.
Hi.
You're all in
All
person.
right,
It is 6:51
6:51,
PM.
we have adjourned the committee chairs meeting. Thank you all for attending.